Over here.
Thank you. Good morning, Mr. President.
Good morning.
I'm a proud Iowa social worker who works with crime victims, and my question is about the poverty rate. We currently have a rate of 14% poverty. That's 1 out of 7 people are in poverty. And I believe that that's the highest rate since the 1960s. And there's a lot of reasons why people go into poverty who weren't in poverty before. You know, things like medical emergencies and losing jobs, being a crime victim, and, you know, especially for women, a divorce. My question is, what are we going to do, or I guess more specifically, what are you going to do, to help 1 out of 6 or 7 people get out of poverty?
It's a profound question. The poverty rate, I think, is the highest it's been in 15 years. It's still significantly lower than it was back in the 1960s, but it's unacceptably high. The single most important thing I can do to drive the poverty rate down is to grow the economy. You know, what has really increased poverty is folks losing their jobs and being much more vulnerable. So everything we can do to provide, tax breaks for small businesses that are starting up, to make sure that we are encouraging, for example, trying to accelerate investment in plants and equipment this year, and letting people write it off more quickly so that companies that are on the sidelines that are thinking about investing, they say, you know what, why don't we go ahead and take the plunge now and start hiring now instead of later. All that can make a big difference in terms of growing the economy, reducing the unemployment rate. That'll reduce the poverty rate. The second most powerful thing I can do to reduce the poverty rate is improve our education system. Because the single biggest indicator of poverty is whether or not you graduated from high school and you're able to get some sort of post-secondary education. And right now, too many of our schools are failing. So this week we spent a lot of time talking about the education reforms we've already initiated. As I said, we set up something called Race to the Top. And it was a simple idea. The federal government sends education dollars to schools all across the country to help them, particularly poorer schools. But what we said is we're going to take a portion of that money, $4 billion, and we're going to say to the states, you're going to have a competition for this money. You're not automatically going to get it because of some formula. You've got to show us that you are initiating reforms that are going to recruit better teachers and train them more effectively, that are going to have greater accountability measures so you're able to track how students are doing during the course of the school year and make adjustments so that they're not just being passed along from grade to grade even though they can't read or do arithmetic at their grade level. We're going to encourage more charter schools and more experiments in learning across the country. All these reform efforts that we triggered through this competition have meant that 32 states actually changed their laws. It's probably the biggest set of reforms that we've seen nationwide on public education in a generation. Then what we're trying to do is make sure that we're working with community colleges and ensuring that they are providing a great pathway for young people who do graduate from high school. They may not go to four-year colleges right away, but the community college system can be just a terrific gateway for folks to get skills. Some start at community college and then go on to four-year colleges. Some just get technical training, get a job, and then come back maybe 5 years later to upgrade their skills or adapt them to a new business. So we're putting a lot of resources and effort into making sure that community colleges are constantly improving, and they're adapting their curriculum to the jobs of the future. So education and growing the economy generally, those are the most important things I can do for poverty. Now, there are other things like, for example, health reform so that people don't lose their homes if they get sick, that will help keep people out of poverty. Making sure that we're dealing with domestic violence, which can have an impact on women, that then drives them out of homes and puts them into difficult situations. Dealing with our veterans, so that if they've got post-traumatic stress disorder, we are treating them quickly before it compounds itself and eventually they end up on the streets, and it's very hard for them then to get back on their feet. Those are all things that are important, and we're going to keep on doing them. But if we can grow this economy and improve our education system, that's going to be the most important thing we can do. So.